The king's pawn opening. White immediately stakes a claim in the center, controlling d5 and f5, and opens lines for the light-squared bishop and queen. The Caro-Kann defense. Black prepares to challenge the center with d5 while keeping a solid pawn structure. White establishes a classical pawn center, maximizing space and piece mobility. Black strikes back, immediately questioning White's central control. The classical variation. White defends the e4 pawn while developing a knight to a natural, active square. This move is slightly inaccurate. Usually, Black plays dxe4 to simplify the center before developing the knight. Allowing White the option to push e5 can lead to a cramped position. A missed opportunity. White should have played e5, kicking the knight and seizing a significant space advantage. Developing the bishop here allows Black to equalize. Black also misses a tactical shot. Nxe4 was much stronger, exploiting the fact that if White recaptures with nxe4, the d4 pawn is left undefended. White solidifies the center and forces the bishop to make a decision. The bishop retreats safely, though it awkwardly blocks the e7 pawn, slowing down Black's kingside development. Developing the knight to the edge of the board is questionable. qd2 would have been much better, preparing queenside castling and reinforcing the center. Black strikes at the center, but this misses a critical idea. Bxh3 was the best move, shattering White's kingside pawn structure and creating long-term weaknesses. Developing with the tempo by checking the king. The position is chaotic, with both sides having unresolved tension in the center. A passive defense that blocks the bishop. Nc6 was much more active, challenging the center directly and developing a piece. White cashes in on the central tension, winning a pawn and opening lines for the pieces. Ignoring the crisis in the center, Black had to play bxh3 to ruin White's structure before dealing with the bishop check. A serious mistake. White retreats the bishop instead of playing the crushing dxe6. Pushing the pawn would have ripped open Black's position and won material, moving the attacked bishop to safety. But once again, bxh3 was the most testing continuation to create structural damage in White's camp. White tries to centralize the knight, but dxc5 was stronger, solidifying the extra pawn and opening the d-file for the queen. Critical moment, a catastrophic blunder that hangs the queen on d8. Black needed to play h6 to question the bishop on g5. Incredibly, White misses the hanging queen. bxd8 was winning on the spot. Instead, White captures a pawn, completely letting Black off the hook. Black gratefully takes the hanging bishop. The tables have completely turned, and Black now has a decisive advantage. White tries to centralize the queen, but g3 was necessary to defend the f4 knight and challenge Black's powerful queen. A strong pawn fork. Black attacks both the queen and the knight, exploiting White's lack of coordination. White pins the e5 pawn to the king, temporarily saving the knight from capture. Black develops, but bxc5 was crushing, attacking the queen and breaking the pin immediately. Castling into safety, but d6 was a critical intermezzo to disrupt Black's coordination and create chaos. Black also secures the king. The position remains complex, but bxc5 was still the most precise way to untangle and press the advantage. Pushing the pawn, but d6 was much more disruptive, opening lines and forcing Black to make difficult decisions. Black simply captures the pawn, stabilizing the structure and maintaining the material edge. White recaptures, but the position is strategically lost. Black has a clear advantage in both material and piece activity. Black develops the knight and controls the center. All of Black's pieces are now harmoniously placed. Centralizing the knight, looking for tactical tricks in a desperate position. A devastating pin. The bishop skewers the queen to the king, sealing White's fate. A desperate check to complicate matters before losing the queen. Black calmly captures the knight, maintaining the deadly pin on the queen. White is forced to give up the queen for the bishop to escape the pin. Black recaptures. The dust has settled, and Black is up a full queen for a minor piece. The rest is a matter of technique. Bringing the rook to a central file, trying to create some resistance. Black grabs another pawn, expanding the material advantage and clearing lines, centralizing the knight and attacking the queen, moving the queen to a safe, central square where it dominates the board, and knight fork, attacking the rook on a8 and eyeing the c8 square. Black ignores the threat to the rook and launches a counterattack, eyeing the e1 rook. White defends the rook and prepares to capture on a8. Black moves the attack rook to an active file, putting pressure on b2. White trades the bishop for the queen, reducing the material deficit slightly, though black remains completely winning. Recapturing and opening the f-file for the rook. Black's minor pieces are incredibly active. A nice family fork, attacking both rooks. Black ignores the fork, grabbing a pawn and infiltrating the second rank with devastating effect. White cashes in on the fork, winning the exchange. Black recaptures. Despite losing the exchange, black's active pieces and mating threats are overwhelming. This blunder loses the rook immediately. f4 was necessary to create some breathing room for the king. Black happily takes the free rook. The game is effectively over. White tries to activate the remaining rook, but it's far too late. The knights begin to weave a mating net around the white king. Forced move, stepping out of check. A discovered attack from the bishop, bringing another piece into the assault and controlling key escape squares. White grabs a pawn, completely oblivious to the impending doom. A beautiful discovered check, forcing the king into a fatal position. A fatal step into the center. Kg1 was the only way to prolong the game, though the position was completely lost regardless. Black calmly takes the rook, removing white's last active piece. A meaningless pawn push in a hopeless position. Checkmate. The rook delivers the final blow, perfectly supported by the knights. A beautiful display of piece coordination.